Welcome everyone to the next episode of Impactables with Rishabh. Today we have Ravi from Autobotik. Welcome Ravi.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So it's been around 3 decades, I would say. You have been working in multiple industries. I think same industry, but fewer companies, not much companies. So can you walk us through like where you came from, what are companies you worked, and how was your transformation journey?
Sure, yeah. Actually, if I start from my master's days, I got my master's from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. After that, I worked in India for a couple of years. I started my career with Sundaram Clayton and then Wipro Information Technology. So those days, particularly companies like Wipro were trying to get into services area quite a lot, but also had a lot of hardware to sell. So I started my career with Wipro as a senior customer support engineer, trying to promote engineering software through Sun Microsystems platforms. So we were trying to get into more serious consulting work, but I think Wipro was not yet ready at that time. So I got an opportunity to do my PhD. So I went to US, got my PhD in mechanical engineering, and after that joined IBM Research. So since IBM Research job was quite good, very focused on innovation and close to what I did in my PhD, I stayed there for about 6 to 7 years, went through a lot of transitions within the same group, became an accidental entrepreneur through IBM Research. They spun off our group and then we started a company, small company there with a company called CADSci. So somewhere in 2000, I decided to come back to India, took an opportunity from GE Global Research who was hiring in the US. So we always wanted to come back to India. So I came back in 2000, mid 2000. Worked with GE Global Research, John F. Wells Technology Center for 5 years. Then I saw an opportunity to set up something with Delphi. So I went and worked with Delphi for about 17 years, moving from innovation to product development. A lot of work I did in Delphi through two companies, I would say. Delphi, which became Aptiv subsequently, was in product development.
Okay, the name was different before.
It was called Delphi. Delphi Electronics and Safety was the business division, but it was called Delphi Corporation. Probably, as you know, Delphi was a General Motors subsidiary.
Okay.
So until 1999, Delphi was part of GM. Then they were spun off into an independent company, and they started expanding beyond General Motors and started getting new products from other OEMs also. So they had a technical center in India, in Bangalore. So I joined their technical center under Delphi. So over a period of 17 years, I saw a lot of transition in Delphi, which it got split into multiple. It had a lot of business divisions which got sold over a period of time. But in 2018, it was split into two companies. One was supposed to work primarily on powertrain and electrification, and the other one was on electronics, a lot of electronics, and that became Aptiv.
They make sports and racing cars also, na, kind of a thing?
Delphi doesn't, but Delphi does almost everything with respect to electronics and
The reason being my friend works over there. It's in Hoodie only.
Currently, Aptiv office is in Hoodie. Yeah,
Hoodie
it is somewhere close to Hoodie. Yeah. So it became Aptiv, and then I continued with Aptiv until 2021. So after, as you mentioned, almost close to 3 decades, 95 I got my PhD, so it's almost 30 years now. So I thought I'll do something else, and I took a lot of experience of both innovation and product development. Came out of Aptiv in 2021 after COVID, and a few of us from ex-Delphi executives, who were working already on some consulting assignments. So one of them invited me to join his organization. So I joined this company called Autobotik, which is currently registered in Singapore, but we work with a lot of smaller startups and mid-tier companies, and sometimes even some large companies on various kinds of projects. But we work at the intersection of technology and business. So we take, for example, deep tech companies sometimes and then help them to get into automotive industry. We help some companies with respect to processes, establish their processes to become automotive grade and so on. So it's different kinds of assignments, but we work in the automotive industry. Primarily what today it is called mobility industry. We haven't ventured into aerospace and other areas, but primarily mobility industry.
Interesting. So all these years you have been focusing much more on automotive industry only. Your forte is that itself.
Last 20 years, yes. Last 20 plus years. In GE, of course, I was in global research, so We had group companies of GE with which we used to work.
But what made you, like, for example, you did a PhD, but definitely in automotive you have not done the PhD, right?
No, I worked on core mechanical engineering, so.
Okay, and but after 10 years, when you worked in initial two companies, IBM and GE, when you came to Aptiv as a whole, like, and still continuing the same segment, which is automotive, and taking that niche, working with different companies, what was the driving factor that you first stick to that particular company for around 16, 17 years, I think, in Aptiv, and then in a complementary industry only, you started helping some different companies, consulting them?
Yeah, see, for me, I think the career was not entirely planned, I would say. I started my journey with IBM. I did not really think of leaving IBM. I would have probably stayed there and, for a long time, but I would have wanted to come back to India for sure. I mean, I had made up my mind to come back to India at some point in time. So I just jumped at the opportunity of moving back at the right time with a good career option, okay, when GE was just setting up in Bangalore. And that's how I came to GE. So I worked in the US for about 6 to 7 years, but then in GE I worked for about 5 years here. So when I moved from GE to Delphi, it was primarily various reasons, but one of them was the attraction of working directly in product development, and actually maybe potentially ability to launch some products in Indian market and so on. So there were some of those plans at that time. So the reason I stayed for 16, 17 years in Delphi was because of the environment and the opportunities that developed over a period of time. So career typically happens that way. I mean, if you really love your work, you don't have any reasons to actually look out for something else.
But that is now, actually, when you look down the line as today, like people who started graduating after 2020, I hardly see people working in company. Even if the company is good, the things are going good, they leave the company 2 3 years later. 90% to 95%, I see this only now. That shift is there. So do you think like any reason of that shift now as compared to before?
Maybe the opportunities are a lot more, and also the technology moves fast, right? I mean, today I think the kids who graduate today get exposed to a lot of new technologies in a very short period of time. Okay, so probably even now I would say that if you leave technology aside and give them a strong long-term goal, okay, and consistently support them with that long-term goal, probably they would stay in the organization. It's not that they would want to probably move from place to place. Maybe because they move because of either compensation or maybe family reasons, or want to work on new technology and new areas. Maybe those are the reasons. I don't think that changes, in my opinion. I mean,
So in automobile industry as a whole, some of the innovations are being celebrated a lot, actually. And in this industry, innovations doesn't happen very quickly or in daily basis, actually. What is one innovation which you saw over the years, like which moved this entire industry very fast? Like I see now EV is coming, electric vehicles are coming now, that people are adopting now. But anything in your lens from past 20 years which you saw that this has moved the industry very fast?
industry very fast in terms of adoption.
Adoption, or you say about people getting more interested towards that, working in that particular sector, any kind of thing, because people now own car. Owning car now is not a difficulty in terms of as compared to if someone is talking about 2010 to 20. Nowadays people have car. Someone earning 70 80,000 rupees also they have a car. So in terms of what made it boost to the extension of this?
Okay, see, I'll give you my perspective. Even electric vehicles are not new. I mean, electric vehicle innovation started more than 100 years ago. The first electric car was actually built in early 1900s, or maybe even late 1800s actually. So every few years, every maybe 10 to 20 years, electric vehicles have made an appearance in the market, but then slowly faded off due to a lot of other reasons. Okay, technology.
Okay. So previously it appeared before also.
Yeah. It is. I think the first real electric vehicle was built way back in 1800s. If you go to one of these history of EVs, actually you will see that. So there have been innovations over a period of time. The cost of the EVs actually and the power that is required to run the EVs have gradually come down, and that's one of the reasons why it is becoming more and more popular. There's definitely an innovation in terms of battery technology and so on. So if you really look at the automotive market, per se until maybe 60s and 70s or even into 80s. There was a lot of focus on power, okay, emissions, fuel efficiency, right? So people used to want to develop cars which are more powerful, more fuel efficient, less emissions and so on. So this innovation, this led the auto industry for a long time. If you look at the last 20 years, the focus has been with the advent of internet and things like that, in internet and smartphones, the focus has been a lot more on consumer experience. So today's car actually is more or less like a mobile smartphone. Okay. So if you sit inside a car, I mean, everybody wants you to have a fantastic, seamless experience that you have outside the car and inside the car, right? So it has connected features, it has safety features. Now it is slowly becoming more and more electric. So all this is converging to a user experience focused car. So I would say, if what has driven the industry faster in the last couple of decades is this user experience focus, okay, the consumer focus or customer focus inside the vehicle. So everybody wants to give you a great experience inside the car, okay. And to some extent, I think the power, fuel efficiency and emissions, the innovations in those areas have kind of reached a stable state. So people don't talk so much about it when they sell their cars, but it is kind of taken for granted, in many cases.
People now don't talk about mileage and all. Yeah. Previously they used to talk a lot. Actually, now they talk about comfort, safety, experience, as you say.
Yeah. So that's what has driven the industry faster.
What do you think? Like in upcoming days, like we are seeing EV and adoption is higher. I would say than before, obviously, because people are moving. Definitely, upcoming 10 years, it will be more adopted. Any other new technology might come in the market, like which will drive this industry more faster, apart from all these things which we have as of now?
EV also, I think, we believe that it is more or less like a transitory technology. It may not be the end state goals, okay. So today, I think a lot of countries are driving emissions down, okay. European Union, for example, had zero emissions by 2035 kind of a goal, right? So EVs definitely contribute to that, but if you really take the end-to-end, okay, end-to-end value chain of EVs, they are not necessarily the best solution for reducing emission, okay, because you may just postpone or move the emission from one point to another point. So your power plants also have to become renewable and so on, right? So probably other kinds of propulsion technologies like hydrogen and things like that would probably move the industry to the next level, okay, in the next few years. So there are people working on it, and hopefully that will become more common in the next decade or so. Now, if you take today's technology, safe, green and connected are the three themes or pillars on which the automotive industry is working on, right? So increase safety significantly and increase the green energy propulsion, and then make them connected, okay. To a large extent, we have made a lot of innovation in that. Yesterday I was reading some news item that even India is planning to adopt vehicle to vehicle communication in some way, V2V communication.
Autonomous has already came.
Autonomous technology is there, but its adoption, widespread adoption, is still probably a very long way.
It will take a lot of time. In India, it is long.
Yeah, in India, it is probably mixed. In my opinion, probably it'll not catch up so much in India. There are definitely very focused areas of adoption. For example, if you take airports and small airport parkways, limited what you call operational design domain, or ODD is what we call. So if you take limited areas where you want to deploy these autonomous vehicles, so there is an opportunity. But if you say that it will operate in a hybrid mode anywhere on city roads, highways, etc., I think that is still a little bit far away, even though people are experimenting in other countries.
Interesting. So, like in your consulting, currently what you're doing for lot many startups and established or growing companies, obviously lot many people will reach out to you. What is that one thing when you start or look after when you start consulting them or decide that you're going to work with this particular team or the company? Like, and is there only like you work with those companies who have already raised some money or doing business, or like who are in idea or development stage also?
We work with companies which we think have a potential to succeed. number one. And number two, of course, the ones who have ability to pay us in lighter terms. But okay, what we do actually in this consulting is we look at both technology and business. Most of my partners who work with us, we have about 6 to 8 people who work in different parts of the world. I work out of Bangalore, but my partners work out of Cape Town, Singapore, Luxembourg, and US, and so on. So we have different skill sets. We have worked in different areas of automotive technology for a long time. So when we look at a company, we see that they have potential to succeed. Okay, for example, a few years back, we worked with a Silicon Valley startup in autonomous technology. So one of my partners was an advisor for them for quite some time, and then when I started working with them, actually I helped him in this project. So these guys have deep technology, but have interest to get into automotive industry, but have no experience in automotive industry. So we kind of bridge that gap. So we look at their product, we look at how we can actually help them to get into automotive industry. That's the primary focus of what we do.
But what happens like when you say automotive industry? Like, is it only cars or like some parts of the car or some technologies? It's divided also, right?
Yeah.
So which feature or what type of I would not say feature actually. What type of industry under the automotive is like very big? People build a lot of things over there.
Today, if you see, our expertise is primarily in two areas actually: electrification and autonomous technologies. So when we look at these, most of the companies that we work with are in one of these two areas, either electrification or autonomous technology. So we have done some projects in Singapore, for example, where electrification was the primary area. So some of my colleagues actually did an assessment of those companies. Similarly, in autonomous technology, we have worked in a couple of projects. So when you take these two, their primary focus is those, and then their customers are similar to rest of the world, to major OEMs or smaller OEMs, or there are a lot of new companies in the automotive industry today. Okay, besides the traditional OEMs, actually there are a lot of new companies.
And when we say automotive, it covers everything: two-wheelers, four-wheelers.
Most of our work has been in four-wheelers, that is passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles. We have not really worked on two-wheelers, except maybe one project in Singapore, but not so much in two-wheelers.
Understood. Now, since you talked about your partners in different regions and countries, when you work cross-border or beyond different countries, there will be regulatory factors in each and every country.
Yeah.
So when the company is going global or they're building from such one kind of country, actually, how do you ensure or guide the company that need to match the regulatory things when they launch in different states or different countries, actually?
Yeah. So the first thing, see, the regulatory framework in automotive industry, in certain areas they are very strong. In certain areas they are still evolving. So if you take, for example, traditional fuel emission standards, they're fairly stable, and expectations are fairly stable. Of course, the ground reality can be different. I mean, it's people might still struggle with technology and so on, but the standards are fairly established. If you take something like autonomous vehicles, the standards are not so well established. I mean, it varies from country to country. Besides that, it is not well framed so that companies which want to, let's say, launch autonomous technology in a new area, they would really not have a very standard set of procedures. Okay, so it varies from place to place. So when a company wants to do this in a country, in a different country, we have some knowledge of the core automotive processes, what they need to actually do to develop their products reliably to become automotive grade. We also have some knowledge of the local regulations. Okay, so one of my partners actually works with some of the government agencies and things like that. So we have some awareness. So we kind of advise these companies, okay, if you want to get here, these are things that you need to do. For example, if you want to launch autonomous service, let's say in Europe or something, you have to develop a safety case and then try to comply to certain things. Europe is slowly evolving this autonomous deployment now. So it is that knowledge that we use and then actually try to help these companies.
Interesting. But what are the like basic regulatory frameworks which works across commonly or like across different countries or different regions of the world? Like as you said, emission. Is there any other factors which encourages regulatory?
There are development standards in automotive industry that are very common across various locations. Okay, so ISO has a standard. Okay, it is called 16949. It is basically the automotive IATF standard. There is also something called SPICE, automotive SPICE. Okay, which is basically a process improvement standard, which takes you through the entire life cycle of how to develop a product and make sure that it is done reliably, and you can actually have a complete traceability to requirements from the customer to the product's performance on the field. So this has been used quite commonly and quite popularly in automotive industry, automotive SPICE. Also for safety, there are some standards called functional safety standards. So this is called 26262, I think. So these standards are known for everybody across all over the world. Yeah. Similarly, for autonomous also there are certain standards. So they have to meet these standards if they want to launch a vehicle in a country, for sure. I mean, that is like a baseline.
Okay.
So besides that, depending on the technology, there may be some standards.
But does autonomous cars it's like only EV, or like it can have petrol also?
No, autonomous technology can be with any cars. Okay, that is, but the thing is, its implementation with cars like EV is probably easier and better.
The Tesla cars, which is driverless autonomous cars, it's of EV only, right?
Yeah. Tesla is completely EV. They don't do any
exactly.
IC engine cars. Yeah,
exactly.
So it is.
But that technology can also have different like petrol, diesel, or CNG also autonomous.
Autonomous can be built with any vehicle. Yeah, with any.
But it's not a great way, I guess, to implement.
Yeah, because see, you are doing automatic control, right? So everything has to be electronic. Everything has to be. Yeah, so it is easier to do it with electronic vehicle like EV, but it can be implemented in.
But have you seen someone implementing this?
Yeah.
People are.
Yeah. There is actually a startup company in Bhopal. You might have seen this guy's videos. He has done that with, I think, one of the Mahindra vehicles. Scorpio or something. The company's name is called Swayat Robotics, I think. Yeah. So I've seen some videos of the same. People have implemented that,
but not fully autonomous. I think.
Yeah, fully is actually difficult to define because there are 5 levels of automation. Autonomous in autonomous actually SAE has defined 5 levels. Level 5 is fully autonomous. Level 0 is of course no autonomous, and there are various levels of autonomy in between 0 to 5. So level 2 is something that a lot of people have adopted. Okay, so even if you buy cars in India today, you get level 2, ADAS level, which is level 2 autonomy. So you have some level of automatic control and things like that. But some of the high-end OEMs are actually implementing level 3 autonomous vehicles and all that, and are experimenting that on roads in other countries, in Europe and things like that.
So why, but in all this, while you consult and while you speak with so many companies, how much focus the founders are on the safety part actually?
Safety of
obviously vehicle and passenger driving.
See, it depends on the company, but that is why you have regulations and so on. So I think if they have some knowledge of the industry, they will actually be very focused. Okay, but what happens in these many of these deep tech startups is they have no knowledge of they don't have a strong knowledge of the automotive expectations. So a lot of times what we do is when we start working with them, we give them an idea of how to win a business in automotive with automotive OEMs. What is important? What are the things they need to do? And then we actually look at their company and then work with them.
And what are the things which you guys make sure that these are the couple of things which need to achieve in terms of completing the milestone? Like when you start working with the companies, there are certain milestones or something kind of principles which you keep in mind that these all things we need to ensure doing it, and this is a timeline when you should launch it. So generally, how does this entire structure works when you start working with the company? Because they want to launch a product, obviously. And how soon we can launch, all these things, like obviously you guys be helping. So how does this entire life cycle works?
No, I see a lot of times actually we don't stay with them until they launch a product and so on. I mean, sometimes, we actually help them to reach a certain level and they work on probably sometimes.
Mostly in R&D times, right?
Yeah. Development and also productization. So when you take the product from R&D to market, there is a productization phase, which where you actually make it a commercial product. So we help them in that phase. Yeah, that phase. But we introduce them to customers sometimes. We don't necessarily stay with them through their launch and then their business development. We help them build their internal organization sometimes. So we leave it at that.
Interesting. But now in upcoming days, like when we see, like does it, like the cost is increasing day by day, but now I am seeing the few of the cars which is coming with great features, but the cost is also very less. So do you think that upcoming days, as the technology improves, the innovation improves, the cost might come lesser side, or that it will keep on increasing onto certain extent the type of technology we are using?
Cost actually is a funny factor. I mean, see, the cost varies from region to region, right? So if you say the average cost of a vehicle, okay, it has to be compared with its performance and its efficiency and so on. Okay, so if you look at the number of features that are there in the vehicle compared to number of features that were there earlier, I think the cost has somewhat kind of reduced. So because the focus is so much on user experience and so on, I would say the cost of new features and things like that will definitely come down. For example, if you see level 2 ADAS was available for maybe 5 to 10 years ago, it was available only in high-end cars. Today you see it in a lot of newer cars in even lower end segments actually, level 2 ADAS. So definitely the cost of technology will come down and the cost of implementation will come down. But there are also other geopolitical factors for cost, right? Supply chain and things like that. So and availability of materials
like silver.
Yeah. So that can dictate cost in a different manner.
So have you encountered this use case, like people talking about silver in the EV industry, where they are using this, or like it's just something is happening altogether?
No, I haven't, but I have come across these rare earth availability of rare earth materials and things like that.
And is it really being used so heavily in the EV cars and the batteries actually?
Batteries to some extent, but you also have these power electronics, right? So which is basically in EVs, what happens is if you want to get 12-volt supply, okay, you have to convert the power to a DC power, okay, either a higher end voltage to a lower end voltage, or if you want to drive a motor, convert a DC voltage into AC voltage and then use an inverter for that. So some of these DC converters and inverters actually require use of magnets and all that. So there some of the these kinds of materials and things like that become important.
Because suddenly it felt like in past 6 months with silver is like something which is being used in only EV. People are like, in EV it is being used, in batteries it is being used. But I never believed that only over there, some might be other factors also.
Power electronics, I mean, there are a lot of electronics these days, right? So in EVs actually have a lot of significant power electronics content in them. So some of those components actually use.
Few things which any founder who starts today in this industry, like as a person who studied mechanical or automobile engineering, worked with some companies for, say, suppose couple of years, 4-5 years, now want to enter in this sector, what things they need to keep in mind?
Okay, in which sector you're talking?
Automobile sector only. If they want to pursue their career, or in terms of they want to start their own company, be it anything, be it any parts manufacturing, or be it any kind of a car anything, what things they need to keep in mind, that because it's a long journey, it will not happen in 1-2 days. Healthcare and this automobile, this all takes a lot of time. If you build hardware as a whole, what are things they need to keep in mind when they start thinking and start to initiate this actually?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. See, I thought that this market is crowded. I still think that it is a crowded market. There are a lot of options. Okay, you take two-wheelers for example. You never thought that somebody like a new player can come into EV market in electric vehicles, electric two-wheelers, and actually make a significant impact. Ather to some extent I think changed that perception, right? So they became reasonably successful. Now they are a public company as well. I think one of the, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, that one of the key things key things they brought to the table was innovation of connected scooters, right? So they didn't really talk about much, anything else but connected scooters.
Yes.
A lot of connected. So that kind of caught on, I think, probably. So if you are looking at entering this market, you have to bring something innovative, okay? Innovative to the table. So let me share my experience. Actually, I also work with Deshpande startups in Hubli as an advisor, and we run a program on hardware development, okay, along with an ex-colleague of mine in GE. So I do see on and off a few, startups, very enthusiastic founders, startups in this area, but they have a different idea, okay. For example, I saw a startup where this guy is building a two-wheeler with a lot of attachments which can be used as a commercial moving vending cart, okay. So I thought it is an interesting idea, okay. So something new that they are adding to this, right? Similarly, you see some vehicles, off-highway vehicles in agricultural area. So, okay, so a vehicle that actually automates the mechanization of agricultural and farming. Okay, so these are innovative new ideas. So if you are entering this market and you want to build a full-scale vehicles, and want to become successful, you have to bring something new to the table that doesn't exist, and then you have to create that brand to become successful.
Understood. Super interesting. Last one thing which you want to say for automobile industry as a whole, which you have observed for so many years.
Yeah.
Like any myth you might have heard, but you know that this is one thing which is very interesting to observe in upcoming times, or something which can be corrected.
See, automotive industry today is becoming, as I mentioned, right? It's becoming more and more software focused industry. Okay, so today a lot of hardware functions are being replaced by software. So there is this concept of software driven vehicle where the architecture itself is completely changing more and more towards software. There was a point of time in this industry where people thought that mechanical is the strength of automotive, right? So if you are a strong mechanical engineer and you know how to design and build things, you had a career forever. But today a lot of those perceptions are changing. People think that hardware is a commodity, and then that a lot of things can be achieved by software. So it is moving more and more towards software driven architecture and things like that. So this safety zone or comfort zone that people actually felt in a lot of legacy OEMs, is they are actually struggling to scale up because of this, and then turn the organization into more and more software centric organizations. So this is one thing that probably was considered as a long-term option, but is changing in the industry quite a bit.
Very rapidly.
Yeah.
Okay. So with this, thank you so much, and it was lovely knowing about your journey and also about this automotive industry as a whole.
Sure. Thank you, Risha. Was glad to be here, and thanks for the nice conversation.